Clemson Hotline is on the air, a one-hour talk show giving Clemson fans a power hour of Tiger sports talk. Clemson Hotline is presented by y'all.com and brought to you by Amtrak. Clemson Hotline is direct from Tiger Country on a network of radio stations across the great state of South Carolina. And as always, podcast editions of our programs are available for download in iTunes. Hello, Tiger fans. Welcome back into the Clemson Hotline right here on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network. I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Thank you so much for stopping by and spending an hour with us talking about your Clemson Tigers. And we'll start this week's program with the Clemson Tiger baseball team. Of course, they travel down to Coral Gables, Florida to take on the Miami Hurricanes and fall for the first time after 11 consecutive wins. We'll talk about that. They lose the series. Miami, a team that's traditionally a power in baseball, not having the best season. They are actually still under 500 in conference play, the Miami Hurricanes. They're 27-16 overall, 10-11 in conference play. But the Clemson Tigers go down there, grind out 15 hits, 2 total runs, and somehow win a ball game. And almost win 2. I don't know if I'm more impressed with the winning streak that led up to this weekend or the fact that Clemson almost scored 2 runs and almost won the series. Bizarre. Stay with us, Tiger fans. We'll be back with more Clemson Hotline right here on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network.
Mom, I had the best dream.
Well, good morning to you, too.
Okay, so I was a knight. I had a sword, and our house was a castle. There was this angry dragon. It was kind of scary.
Oh, yeah?
But I protected the castle.
Oh, that's my brave little man. I'm glad our castle is safe.
Your home is your castle, and sometimes you need help defending it. The National Association of Realtors supports maintaining homeowner tax incentives because they make home ownership more affordable for more families. Learn more at houselogic.com.
A winning team requires having great team members. If you're a landowner interested in selling timber or are considering buying or selling land, call the winning team of Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, LLC today. Put the knowledge and skills of professional licensed foresters and realtors to work for your team. To learn more about services offered by Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, LLC, visit www.crosscreektimber.com and easily follow the link to real estate or reach them by phone 864-517-3620 or 864-517-3621.
Ladies, are any of these symptoms familiar? Weight gain, hot flashes, rapid heartbeat, night sweats? How about fatigue, nausea, low energy? Or what about sleeplessness, low libido, and fat storage, especially around the belly area? If you're a woman over 40 experiencing any of these symptoms, you probably have hormonal imbalance. And until you balance your hormones, it'll be practically impossible to get rid of these problems. But you're in luck because Amberen is the all-natural formula clinically shown to cause weight loss in women over 40 with no big change in lifestyle. Amberen restores hormonal balance in women over 40 so you can finally lose the weight. And all of the other menopause symptoms simply go away. To receive a complimentary risk-free trial with a free 30-day supply, just be one of the first 50 callers right now at 1-800-851-8111. Free supplies are limited, so be one of the first callers right now at 1-800-851-8111. That's 1-800-851-8111.
Want to hear the sound of hassle-free traveling?
All aboard!
Amtrak takes the hassle out of traveling to over 500 destinations. You can stretch out in a spacious seat, relax in a sleeping car, and enjoy a hot meal in the dining car. And for those who want to kick back and take in the scenery, go right ahead. For everything you get on Amtrak, the one thing you won't get is this. So whether you're going to a family reunion or an away game, make it a whole lot nicer on Amtrak. Book your trip today at Amtrak.com or call 1-800-USA-RAIL.
All aboard!
It was the moment I realized I was about to lose my job.
I found myself searching for pills instead of just being with my family.
At that moment, I finally decided to get help for my addiction to opioids.
The prescription painkillers.
At turntohelpnow.com, you'll learn that opioid dependence is a real medical condition and that there are different ways to get help, including those in a private setting, without the need for daily visits.
That moment led me to turntohelpnow.com.
Make now your moment. Visit turntohelpnow.com today.
The 1988 season was a great year for the Clemson Tigers, finishing 10-2 with a win over Oklahoma in the Citrus Bowl. But it was a better year for Clemson fans. That season, Tigertown Graphics became your source for custom tees, promotional items, and embroidery. Conveniently located in the heart of downtown Clemson, their retail store proudly displays Clemson shirts that are designed and printed directly on site. Whether you're looking for the latest Clemson t-shirts or ordering products for your school, organization, or business, Tigertown Graphics can help with all of your t-shirt needs. Find them online at www.tigertowngraphics.com. A Clemson tradition since 1988.
Hey there, Tiger fans. When you take yourself out to the ball game, make sure that you're staying at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. That's right, it's the closest hotel to Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Lakeside accommodations, complimentary continental breakfast bar with waffles, the Seasons by the Lake restaurant, Joe's Place Bar, and the Walker Golf Course are all waiting for you right around the corner from Doug Kingsmore Stadium. For reservations, contact General Manager Sharon Franks at sharonf@clemson.edu or call 1-888-654-9020 and ask to speak to Sharon. Buy yourself some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, but make sure that you stay at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. Clemson Hotline, keeping it moving here. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you, Chris. Rocking the Chris in the chat room says, nice shirt. Rocking the Clemson Sports Talk shirt. If you like it, if you want one, you want to support our programs, go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Click on the store button. There they are. We'll send you one. We gave some away here on the program. Thank you to our loyal listeners who are always here filling up the chat room. And if you don't take part with the program live, you should. I'm telling you, Sunday nights, 9 p.m., occasionally we get up into the 20s, maybe more. It kind of depends on how many people are watching the show live. The downloads, though, typically are still through the roof, even during the downtime. We really see a big increase, though, when college football season comes rolling around. There's no mistaking that fact. But I think with Clemson Tiger baseball playing a little bit better, plus an opportunity for many people who maybe live outside of the realm of the golden corner of South Carolina, up there, Pickens County, a Coney County area, those people who can't maybe pick up the programs or don't stream WCCP or some other way, shape, or form, or maybe are looking for a program on the weekend talking Clemson sports, they come right here. So thank you so much for doing that. And every once in a while, we'll say something on the program and you don't realize just how good it was, how great it came out. But thanks to Twitter, some people will let you know. Now, they'll also let you know when you said something completely idiotic and asinine as well. That happens. But my man Josh, you can follow him on Twitter. He's at Josh Tetzlaff. That's Tetzlaff. Josh is in the chat room with us. Earlier this week, he tweeted something I said on the program on Wednesday night's TigerNet Talk. It said, no Clemson fan in their right mind would have walked out of Williams-Brice Stadium with that hatchet job painted on the ground. Speaking of the paw that was painted at Williams-Brice Stadium, allegedly by a Clemson Tiger fan. I didn't realize what a gem that quote was. I didn't realize what a quality piece of work that was till I got to read it again. I thank you, Josh, for making me aware of the fact that that was well worth going back and finding that moment in the show. I really need to pull that moment and save it in the archives. I've got some old archives from some stuff I used to do, but that was a good one. Thank you so much for pointing that out to me. And Clemson goes down to Miami. They win a 1-0 game on Friday. Daniel Gossett, he's been fantastic this season. He's 6-2 on the year. He pitches 7 innings. He has 10 strikeouts. And Clemson finds a way to beat Miami 1-0. And you're thinking, I think, as a Clemson Tiger fan, going into this weekend, we need a big victory. We need to find a way to stay right there with Florida State. Fortunately, the Florida State Seminoles had a bad weekend at Virginia. And where that leaves the Atlantic Coast Conference standings, even with Clemson losing 2 times to Miami, NC State, the preseason Atlantic Coast Conference writers' prediction to win the conference is now at 14-7 in the Atlantic Division, followed by Florida State at 13-8 and Clemson at 13-8. So we said just a couple of weeks ago you wanted to stay about a game near Florida State. Well, right now you're back in the mix completely because you've got a team like NC State finally creeping on up there. Now you've already played your series against NC State. Clemson didn't have a series with NC State this season, with the expanded schedule, but they still have that series with Florida State to close the season. I was thinking about the series against North Carolina just a couple of weeks ago that was so big for the Clemson Tigers. But you're right there still, right in the mix with an opportunity to maybe find a way to win the Atlantic Division. Of course, this weekend, the Clemson Tigers host the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and a midweek game against Western Carolina. Again, we warned you about the Catamounts before. They gave the Tigers everything they wanted up there in Cullowhee as Clemson went up to take on Western Carolina. But now, midweek game against Western Carolina. That game is on Wednesday. We'll talk about that, obviously, if it's completed during TigerNet Talk, and then we'll recap the Georgia Tech series on next Sunday night's program. But for Clemson to win that first game down in Coral Gables 1-0, you had to feel pretty good about things. The odd thing about that, though, was that Thomas Brittle's ground out actually let John McGibbon score, but that was the only Tiger that got past second base the entire evening. And that would hold true basically throughout the weekend, where the Tigers only mounted 4 hits in that second ball game. Matthew Crownover suffered his first collegiate loss as a pitcher. He's now 5-1. Remember, he came into Clemson off of that Tommy John surgery out of high school. He's a young man who's really, really been very impressive this year. I think when you look at this Clemson pitching staff right now, he is the number one guy that you say, wow, look at the job he's done, because I think there were some people wondering what he would do this season. And then Sunday, Clayton Schmidt took the loss for the Tigers. He's 3-2. He gave up 8 hits, 4 runs in 3 2/3. That, of course, dropped the Tigers to 27-13, 13-8 in Atlantic Coast Conference play, as we mentioned. But Miami's Andrew Suarez was simply scintillating. 6 innings, a complete game pitched with 6 singles, no runs, and no walks, and no Clemson runners got past second base. Much like Friday's opening game, where the Tigers found a way. Unfortunately, in this ball game on Sunday, Clemson was unable to do so, and the Miami Hurricanes, a team who have been throughout the years one of the best programs in all of college baseball, got a big victory over your Clemson Tigers and a big series victory, 2-1. But when you go down to Coral Gables and you have 15 hits and you only have 2 runs scored, you're not going to win a whole lot of ball games. But for Clemson to have been that close on Saturday, losing 2-1, right there with a chance, it's pretty impressive, to be honest with you. Stay with us, Tiger fans. We'll be back with more Clemson Hotline right after this.
Party rock! Yeah. Woo! Let's go.
This is Coach Dabo Sweeney of the Clemson Tigers, and you're listening to the Clemson Hotline on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network.
Cannot get enough of Dabo Sweeney. I'm telling you that much. I mean, my goodness. This man has taken Clemson Tiger football to where I think it once was. And it's hard to believe that just, I would say 2 years ago, coming off of that disappointing loss up in Charlotte against South Florida, the way Clemson fans felt about Dabo Sweeney and the way I think people feel about him now. You know, a couple of 10 and a 10-plus win season with the 11-win year as well. A couple of seasons like that, and all of a sudden people do begin to feel much better about the direction of the program. I'm not saying that the expectations of the program change, but I do think now the expectation is not that Clemson should be in the mix for the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship game, but I think many Clemson fans are quite disappointed now if Clemson's not in the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship game. And that's a place where we needed to be. That's a place we needed to get ourselves. And the one way you do that is you handle business against the teams that you need to handle business against. You don't let yourself get beat by those opponents like the Wake Forest of the world. And while there have still been some struggles in those type ball games for Dabo Sweeney and the occasional letdown, Georgia Tech, what a letdown that game was 2 seasons ago. Also, I think the one that many people still can't get over is that 70-33 loss in the Orange Bowl. That was a painful one as well. Chris says that Charlotte trip was a long ride home. Yes, and you know what, Chris, I think when we think back to that game, a lot of Clemson fans didn't go. You remember that was a game where you thought it would be an easy trip to make. It would be a trip that's very, in the troubled times in the economy, it would be an economical trip you could take. Clemson fans didn't show up for that game. They just didn't show up. And it was still a lot, and there were still a lot of people out there who were debating, does Dabo Swinney have what it takes to take Clemson to the next level? Should we really have this guy who had zero experience as a coordinator and have put him at the top of our list to have made him the choice? And it was an interesting question, I think, for a couple of years leading up until, obviously, Clemson winning the Atlantic Coast Conference. Then, of course, this past season with Clemson, the year they had, losing to Florida State, losing to South Carolina, but then finding a way in the, I like to call it the Peach Bowl, but the Chick-fil-A Bowl to beat LSU 25-24. And I think about how the season, or this upcoming season, might feel differently had Chandler Cantanzaro not made that field goal against LSU. If he misses that field goal, how do Clemson fans feel about this season? Yes, you would have had a 10-win season. Yes, you would be still one of the best offenses in the country. But had Taj Boyd not shown the leadership skills that he showed in that ball game, if DeAndre Hopkins doesn't step up in that ball game, and if Chandler Cantanzaro shanks a field goal, it's 24-22, and you're licking your wounds. And many of you were. When it was 4th and 16, I think there were a lot of you sitting there, whether you were at the stadium on your couch, maybe you were standing up with just the hopes. That 4th and 16 play, if it goes the other way, some of you had already conceded to yourself, man, at least we went toe-to-toe with LSU. Well, now there's a different feel, a different vibe. That drive completely changed the expectations for this season. And I think it changed it significantly for a lot of people. And I don't think you can blame anybody who says that they agree. Because there will be some out there who will say, oh, man, you can't be so wishy-washy, Swanee. You can't be so wishy-washy. Don't you know that we're the Clemson Tigers? It doesn't matter if we had lost the last game last year or not. It doesn't impact what happens this season. But I disagree completely. And I look at the spring game, and I think of the miss that Chandler Cantanzaro had almost from the identical spot that he had to kick the field goal in that Chick-fil-A Bowl. And I said, I just turned to the people sitting with me. I said, thank goodness that was not in Atlanta. Thank goodness that was not December 31st, 2012. Because that kick changed for a lot of people. Maybe not just Clemson fans, but people nationally that felt like this Clemson team might be some kind of offensive showcase, fireworks, whatever you want to call it. Lots of eye candy here and there. But on that final drive of that game, right after 4th and 16, when you started to see the wear and the tear that this Clemson Tiger offense put on LSU, it changed the mentality of how Clemson fans and much of the national media felt about our program and the direction of our program. I'll be honest with you. We're going to send it out to the phone lines. Welcome into the Clemson Hotline. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, this is RC. How are you?
Hey, RC. Good to have you, man.
Listen, what you're talking about with Dabo, and I mean, it's almost like, if you want to compare it, it's similar to history or the economics, or a certain president is elected, or you get leaders at certain times. The way I look at it is, ESPN promotes for the past 10 years the SEC, big time. So
Absolutely.
These 18-year-old kids, when they were 10 years old, this is all they've heard for 10 years or 8 years. And I look at it, it's kind of weird. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. You got 5 years for any other program that is not inside the SEC to establish their self, not their conference, but their self. Ohio State, Clemson, Florida State, Michigan, Texas isn't doing a very good job. You got Oregon. You have about, in 5 years, if any of those teams haven't established themselves through every other media and with ESPN, you're doomed. You'll never. In other words, we're at Clemson is climbing to the top. We're getting there. But if Dabo wasn't in that position that he's at and he didn't have the assistant coaches that he has, in 5 years, Clemson could never, I don't think, could ever be nationally prevalent again.
Well, let me ask you this, RC, because I think Clemson does a great job at this, partially because South Carolina is up. But when you look around the Atlantic Coast Conference, is there a team in this league that plays more or better, or at least attempts to play more or better SEC teams than Clemson?
No, Clemson by far. Clemson, listen, they won they won as many or more games last year than five. I think it's 5 SEC teams won in their own conference, and they're not playing Vandy, Kentucky, Ole Miss.
Right.
You know, I mean, they played Auburn, but I mean, they're 2 years removed from national championship.
Well, and it's not like Clemson called Auburn when Auburn thought that they were going to be a bad team. I mean, that Auburn team that showed up in Atlanta thought, hey, we're going to have a very good season. It didn't turn out that way, but that was their mindset at that point.
A lot of coaching. But I mean, you see where I'm coming from as far as ESPN goes.
Oh, absolutely.
In 5 years, you have got, outside of the SEC, you have to establish yourself. And there's only going to be a handful of those teams that can do that.
Well, and I think you see a lot of these programs that ESPN has built into their ESPNU channel, featuring a lot of Clemson throughout the years. Part of that, I think, was Sammy Watkins and what he did his freshman year. That got the attention of ESPN. And then Taj Boyd, the numbers he's put up in a couple of seasons at the head as the quarterback for Clemson, obviously that's been key. And he's going to be, I guarantee you, plastered all over ESPN this year, as much, if not more, than the big fella down at South Carolina.
No, I think they've already – listen, he's Heisman's. He's won it hands down because ESPN's already gotten on the wagon. You can't knock them. That's what I'm getting at.
It's a beauty contest.
You've got to get that national respect. Notre Dame has it, which was a great matchup for Alabama. But Clemson, Ohio State, maybe Michigan, you hope that Florida State, as an ACC fan, you hope that Clemson's not the only one in the ACC, that Florida State also. And but you got 5 years, and you got in 5 years, ESPN will be hyping the SEC since these kids have came out of the womb.
It's a good point. No, it's a great point.
You have to nationally, other than ESPN, you've got to get that respect, and you got to earn it. And I think, in this talking about Dabo and him being he's a CEO. He has done a heck of a job, and and I'm happy that he's there, and I'm sure that all the Clemson Nation is too now. Maybe not so when he got it, but he's done. And he's all in. He loves Clemson. He's got passion for Clemson.
He does, and I think that's one of the great things about him. And, he was asked about the Alabama job just the other day, on a radio show I think it was down in Alabama. Would he be interested in taking that position at some point if it ever became available? And I think, the main struggle that he would have is, just like you just said, I think he really loves Clemson. And I think that it would take a while before Alabama would really accept him as a winner, even though he's done great things at Clemson. But I think that would be the one job in America, the only job in America I really believe he would probably leave for. And I don't think many Clemson fans could blame him.
Yeah. Well, other than Alabama, which keeps getting the best, we're not far. I mean, you look at all these teams. I mean, Notre Dame got to play for the national championship, but I think everybody pretty much knew that matchup was not going to be good against Bama. So there's a slew of teams out there, and Clemson proved that they were one of them. There's a slew of them. There's 5, 6, 7, 8 teams that are on the verge of being able to compete with Alabama, and Clemson's one of them. And you can't, even though Carolina's beat us 4 years in a row, they couldn't beat LSU, and we did.
Right.
And we're on that brink, and Dabo's gotten us there. That makes me happy. What about you?
Oh, absolutely, RC. Hey, man, we got to hit a break, but I appreciate you calling in, and give us a call anytime, my man.
All right, bye.
All right, take care. RC, man, constantly in the chat room. Appreciate him. Check him out, RC Sports Cards. I agree. I mean, there's a lot to like about this Clemson team, obviously. We're going to make a point, too. He kind of talked about losing to South Carolina. Talk about just how good this Clemson team was last season. A little stat you may have forgotten. Hopefully you haven't, but you know how it is. The old memory sometimes kind of goes. We'll be back.
That Hotels.com April shower sale is incredible.
I know.
I can't believe how much money we saved.
Don't say that too loudly. If the bellhops hear how much we saved, they'll be on us, looking for big tips. Too late.
Hi, folks. Take your bag. Call your limo.
Wow.
Can I bring you extra towels? How about a club sandwich?
I can carry you down the stairs. Throw it on rose petals.
The Hotels.com April shower sale. On now through April 29th. With savings so great, you won't be able to keep it a secret. Book now and save up to 30%. Hotels.com. Finding you the perfect place at the perfect price.
There's something about looking and feeling classy that everyone enjoys. Check out Edisto Outdoors, an apparel brand inspired by our southern animals and environment. These shirts feature soft-touch prints that will keep you looking your best in all types of weather. Look for Edisto Outdoors coming soon to many fine retailers across the state, or visit www.edistooutdoors.com. Technical, comfortable, livable.
Surprise Mom early with live fresh-cut roses in jaw-dropping spring colors from FiestaRoses.com. They arrive long before Mother's Day, so Mom feels extra special. And that legendary FiestaRoses.com quality means her dazzling roses still last well past Mother's Day. Use promo code MOTHER and save 20% today only by ordering early. Call 800-707-4833. Remember, order early, use promo code MOTHER, and save 20%. 800-707-4833 and FiestaRoses.com.
Hey there, Tiger fans. When you take yourself out to the ball game, make sure that you're staying at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. That's right, it's the closest hotel to Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Lakeside accommodations, complimentary continental breakfast bar with waffles, the Seasons by the Lake restaurant, Joe's Place Bar, and the Walker Golf Course are all waiting for you right around the corner from Doug Kingsmore Stadium. For reservations, contact General Manager Sharon Franks at sharonf@clemson.edu or call 1-888-654-9020 and ask to speak to Sharon. Buy yourself some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, but make sure that you stay at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency.
Do you know the number one cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-838-5562. That's 1-800-838-5562. Call 1-800-838-5562.
G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove.
Remember all the stories growing up as a kid about Refrigerator Perry and just how hard he hit. And my mama told me homecoming games are the best.
Welcome back into the Clemson Hotline, talking about some of those Clemson Tiger greats. Go to rcsportscards.com. RC's always with us. You just heard him on the phone line. Click on college football, go to Clemson or your favorite team. Find you a card on there. He's got a lot of great ones. I see the 1990 card with Jess Neely. I think I used to have those cards somewhere. A 1990 card with Frank Howard. Frank Howard was so fresh in that white fedora. I mean, you talk about taking it to the next level. Look, I'm not a jacket wearing to the football game kind of guy. I know Clemson Tom is. He's with us in the chat room. But if you're sporting the orange blazer with the white cap, it seems to remind me a little bit of what the Olympians look like sometimes. I'm not sure what year it was that the Olympians wore the hats that look like that. Maybe it's every year, for all I know. That looks so sweet. I'm reminded seeing him in that jacket of Howard Schnellenberger when he was coaching. Oh, goodness. I think it was Florida Atlantic. I know he coached at Miami, but I think it was the last time he was at Death Valley. He was coaching for Florida Atlantic, I believe. It was about 105 degrees. Schnellenberger was about 78 years old. I'm telling you, the man was suited up from head to toe. I'm dying in the stands. I've got a tiger rag on my head just trying to stay out of the sun. There's Schnellenberger on the sidelines working it with the top crispy to the top. You don't see people dress like that much anymore in college football, but go there, rcsportscards.com. Check out all this stuff. Got some really, really cool things. And a stat. I promised you a stat that you might not remember from this past season. Clemson led in every game. Every entire game in the regular season at the half, including the losses against Florida State and South Carolina. The only game Clemson didn't lead last season was the Chick-fil-A Bowl against LSU. So I think you're right, RC. I think everybody out there in Tiger Nation is right. This is a team that has clearly taken those steps forward. And they're facing the teams this year that the only teams they can. They're putting teams like Georgia on the schedule, trying to keep that tradition alive. And I really believe if Clemson could ever work out the scheduling nightmare that exists, if Clemson could ever pull off a way to play more than two SEC schools, they'd do it in a heartbeat. I think Clemson fans would want to do that because you get your chance to prove yourself. You get the chance to show people, hey, we're not like everybody else in this league. Go look at the teams that Florida State typically plays out of conference. Go look and see how many times Florida State has stepped out as of late against an SEC school. Give Florida State credit for stepping out against the Oklahomas, for stepping out every once in a while against the Notre Dames of the world. They do try to stretch it a little bit, much more than Florida. You really want to see a laughable non-conference schedule, go check out the Florida Gators. I'm not sure when the last time they've played anybody out of conference that wasn't in a bowl game ever. I don't recall seeing it. I'd love to get them on our schedule. That'd be a fantastic matchup. Clemson, Florida, give me some of that. I'll take me some of that right now. But Dabo Swinney has instilled that mentality in Clemson that, hey, you know what? This is the new Clemson, I think. I mean, it's a new era and a new feeling and really a refreshing feeling going back to the 80s like the direction of this team. No doubt about it. Josh in the chat room says, Deshaun Watson hits number 13 on the ESPN 150. Not bad, not bad. You're right, Josh. It's not at all. The number 1 rated quarterback in the country as well by ESPN. And he's a young man who, as you know, we spoke with George Whitfield not long ago when we had George Whitfield on the program. We're going to get back with him very soon and get an insight into his evaluations of Deshaun Watson and what he thinks of this young man as Clemson prepares to hopefully have him suit up in the orange and white. Obviously, there are some of you that will say, don't talk about this. People, it's so funny. There's so many people that don't want to talk about the fact that maybe, just maybe, Chad Morris might go somewhere else at some point. Oh, why do we want to talk about that? That might be the one sticking point that could derail Watson's commitment to Clemson. But you know what? He said, hey, you know what? I'm all in. He's a Tiger. He wants to go look at some other schools. Pressure from Georgia, pressure from Ohio State. I mean, I think, look, if you're a quarterback right now, you're probably going to look at Clemson because of Chad Morris. And based on what Urban Meyer was able to do at Florida, you're probably going to go up to Ohio State and check out his system. But when you have Urban Meyer, I think the biggest thing, the biggest pat on the back that Chad Morris has is that Urban Meyer tried to steal him from Clemson. And that was out there, that was open. People know all about it. So that makes Clemson look even better in the eyes of some of these quarterbacks because they say, hey, if Urban Meyer wanted this guy, maybe that's where I want to go. I think it's a big help, a big boost for the Clemson Tigers. But don't forget, Ohio State, they went undefeated last season. Obviously, they were on probation. That didn't hurt Urban Meyer's recruiting at all, and he knows what it takes to compete against those schools in the SEC. We got to send it out to a break, so we got a caller on the line. Caller, stay with us. We'll be back with more Clemson Hotline right after this.
Hit the field, no competition, we first up. Offense is too fast, defense ain't scared, boy. Line up against me, we drop you on your head, boy. Death Valley be jumping, whole stadium pumping. Best fans in the whole nation, and damn right we love them. C-L-E-M-S-O-N. We Clemson, we ballin', we all in. These boys can't hold us back.
Clemson Hotline rolling along. Thank you so much. We've got Nate with us on the Clemson Hotline. Nate gave us a call, 803-450-0086. If you're watching the show live, you can see it right here just below me on the bottom third of the screen. But so Nate's here with us, and if you're listening to the podcast edition of the show, feel free to call us anytime. You can leave us a message. Nate, welcome into the Clemson Hotline. Thank you so much, man. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad at all.
Tom giving me shit saying that Clemson is just going to destroy Georgia, and I really don't think that's going to happen because if you think about it, we've got Aaron Murray. Aaron Murray might as well be 10 wins right there himself.
Hey, man, I appreciate your call. I tell you what, I hate to have to let you go, but I can't have you cussing on the show, my brother. Give us a call anytime, though, Nate. Thank you. All right, Nate. Nate the Great. I know, man. That's the problem. Why do you have to run a delay? I mean, it makes no sense that you should have to run a delay on a program like this, but I guess we're going to have to start booting that bad boy up. The problem with that is that if we run it and we've got the video version of the program, then the sync of the audio is going to be completely off. And I know there's nothing worse. I don't know about you guys. There's nothing worse than watching a TV show, and I'm a big stickler for that, is when you take a look and it's like the lips aren't matching up. Not that it's, this is crystal high definition by any means, But I don't care if people want to call the program. I got no problem with that. You want to call the program, you want to voice your opinion, you want to tell us how much you hate Clemson Tom, fire away. Whatever you want to say about the man, it's fine with me. But please don't come on here and, say words that we're going to have to take out of the program, because the show is not just internet-based. Radio stations do carry it. So now I got to go in there. I got to take out that bomb you dropped. I need the duty calls folk. I need the duty calls folk to come up in here and fix it up. Maybe I should give the duty calls people a free little plug right here just for that. What do you think about that? Do we need them to come in here and clean things up? Somebody was saying they wanted to hear the duty calls jingle.
DutyCalls.com.
There it is. All right, they scooped the poop. My goodness, we had to get somebody to come in here and clean things up. Ah, gracious. That always throws you off your game. That throws you off a little bit with the duty button. Speaking of duty, speaking of that, what do you think about the trashed hotel room that apparently DeAndre Hopkins and Rutgers' Mark Harrison had? Of course, there was all types of information about this, leading to Poopgate, if you will, that there may or may not have been some feces on the toilet or in the restroom that was causing an issue, and just basically a ruined room. But DeAndre Hopkins denies the fact that that occurred. He says, luckily, thank God my agent got my flight booked earlier, or it really would have been questionable if I did it or not. Hopkins said, my agent got a flight booked early. He told me to hurry up. I got done before Mark Harrison, so I was already packed. I had already taken a shower and packed and everything. Mark came in. We spoke for at least 20 minutes about the combine. Then the bellman came and helped me get my bags out, and I left. That's honestly all I can say. Hopkins said he hopped on a flight and heard the reports that his room was trashed and covered in feces the next day from his agent, Hadley Engelhard. I don't know. I just, these things, thank goodness some of the NFL people are saying it's not a concern, but certainly when you leave the hotel room, if you leave before somebody else, I don't see how you could possibly be guilty. I don't think Mark Harrison was hanging out in the room with feces everywhere. I'm sure that wasn't the case, and I just don't think that this is anything to be concerned about. Thank goodness, though, that DeAndre Hopkins left early, and hopefully they could get this bellman or anybody else that knows about it to come in and say, hey, the room wasn't like that when I was there. I have no idea. Kind of a strange scenario. Let's see. Mark says, why not play one SEC team and one other major conference team a year in addition to South Carolina, maybe a Michigan State, Nebraska, or Stanford? Mark, it's interesting that you bring up that point, because there is going to be, there's a big debate right now whether the football bowl subdivision schools, the FBS schools, should take on the football championship subdivision, or the FCS schools. And should Clemson step out and play teams like SC State, like Furman, like Wofford every so often? Because for those schools, it's such a, those FCS schools, that game is so big. For those fans in that state to have an opportunity for the Citadel to play against South Carolina, for Clemson to play against Wofford or Furman, those games mean so much to those other schools in state that those games are hard to get rid of. They're extremely hard to get rid of. So I just, when I think about it in that regard, if you do that, you're sacrificing a potentially a very big matchup. You're actually sacrificing a big matchup for those teams, maybe not for your team, I should say. Obviously, that's not a huge matchup for Clemson, but it is an opportunity for many people's family members and others who have been a part of this Clemson tradition, who maybe went to these other schools like SC State, who maybe went to Furman or Wofford, to get a chance to see their alma mater take on the team that maybe they pull for. Because, let's face it, most of the people in the state of South Carolina fall into two categories. They're either A, following Clemson, or B, following South Carolina. And if that's the case, if that's who you're following and that's who you care about, but you went to another school, every once in a while you like to see that happen. Now, could it happen? Yes, absolutely. With the expanded playoff, there's going to be a push to not play those FCS schools by a lot of people, Mark. And I think you're right, and it's just a matter of time before Clemson perhaps loses those games or at least drops them off the schedule, the SC States of the world, and begins to add another big team. I think it's a very important move, but conference expansion will also play a big role in it depending on how many conference games you're forced to play. So a whole lot there. We'll be back. Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
It was the moment I realized I was about to lose my job.
I found myself searching for pills instead of just being with my family.
At that moment, I finally decided to get help from my addiction to opioids.
The prescription painkillers.
At turntohelpnow.com, you'll learn that opioid dependence is a real medical condition and that there are different ways to get help, including those in a private setting, without the need for daily visits.
That moment led me to turntohelpnow.com.
Make now your moment. Visit turntohelpnow.com today.
A winning team requires having great team members. If you're a landowner interested in selling timber or are considering buying or selling land, call the winning team of Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, LLC today. Put the knowledge and skills of professional, licensed foresters and realtors to work for your team. To learn more about the forestry and real estate services offered by Cross Creek Timber, call 864-517-3620 and Cross Creek Realty, LLC at 864-517-3621. Or visit www.crosscreektimber.com and easily follow the link to real estate.
Mom, I had the best dream.
Well, good morning to you, too.
Okay, so I was a knight. I had a sword, and our house was a castle. There was this angry dragon. It was kind of scary.
Oh, yeah?
But I protected the castle.
Oh, that's my brave little man. I'm glad our castle is safe.
Your home is your castle, and sometimes you need help defending it. The National Association of Realtors supports maintaining homeowner tax incentives because they make home ownership more affordable for more families. Learn more at houselogic.com.
Hey there, Tiger fans. When you take yourself out to the ball game, make sure that you're staying at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. That's right, it's the closest hotel to Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Lakeside accommodations, complimentary continental breakfast bar with waffles, the Seasons by the Lake restaurant, Joe's Place Bar, and the Walker Golf Course are all waiting for you right around the corner from Doug Kingsmore Stadium. For reservations, contact General Manager Sharon Franks at sharonf@clemson.edu or call 1-888-654-9020 and ask to speak to Sharon. Buy yourself some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, but make sure that you stay at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn.
Ladies, are any of these symptoms familiar? Weight gain, hot flashes, rapid heartbeat, night sweats? How about fatigue, nausea, low energy? Or what about sleeplessness, low libido, and fat storage, especially around the belly area? If you're a woman over 40 experiencing any of these symptoms, you probably have hormonal imbalance. And until you balance your hormones, it'll be practically impossible to get rid of these problems. But you're in luck because Amberen is the all-natural formula clinically shown to cause weight loss in women over 40 with no big change in lifestyle. Amberen restores hormonal balance in women over 40 so you can finally lose the weight. And all of the other menopause symptoms simply go away. To receive a complimentary risk-free trial with a free 30-day supply, just be one of the first 50 callers right now at 1-800-851-8111. Free supplies are limited, so be one of the first callers right now at 1-800-851-8111. That's 1-800-851-8111.
Bada bing, bada boom. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. Hard to believe there's only about 4 minutes left in the program. We got a whole lot left. I mean, I started thinking about the week and just trying to, you come into the program, you think, oh, man, it's kind of the downtime. You're going to have enough to cover the hour. My goodness. Don't forget, you can email us, call us, tweet to us, any of that stuff throughout the week. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 803-450-0086 is the phone number. We're at Clemson Sports on Twitter. Tweet to us with a hashtag TNTalk. Also, email us, clemson81@gmail.com, and go by clemsonsportstalk.com. Buy yourself a shirt. Support our program and spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your relatives, tell your enemies, and ask them not to say any off-color words when they give us a phone call either. Whatever it takes. Thank you so much to everybody for being here. Clemson, Tom, Josh, RC, Andy, Erica, Mark, Chris, Clemson Swag, a couple of guests as well in the chat room. Thank you. We appreciate you being here. I really do. Couple of points. RC makes a great point. He says coaches try to schedule teams from their recruiting grounds, and that is one reason that it does help, obviously, to play some of these smaller schools. Eventually, though, I think as Clemson's expanded their recruiting, some of that stuff might go away just a little bit, just a hair. I mean, and I really think the biggest deal is going to be once they decide. Of course, the commissioners are meeting this week at the BCS meetings to discuss this new BCS deal. And when you think about the scrutiny that you get when you're selecting 64 or what is now 68 teams to the NCAA tournament, you can only imagine what the scrutiny is going to be when they're deciding the 4 teams. And for me, I don't think there's been a big issue with the selection of the top 4. Perhaps the biggest issue I've always had is with maybe that argument between 2 and 3. And I think when we drop it down and make it a little bit bigger, and once we eventually go to 8, the argument between 8 and 9, in my mind, is much less than the argument between 2 and 3, because if you're 9 this year, the odds of you finishing in that top 8 next year are really good. If you're 10, the odds of getting there are probably really good. So it just it expands your opportunity in the future. And even though you might get burned every once in a while, unlike now, you can be primed and ready year in and year out, maybe like in Oregon, and come up short just a little bit every single time. You finish 3rd, you finish 4th or 5th or whatever, very close, but just can't quite get in. So I'm not against the change at all. And also, oh man, I saw another great quote. Oh yeah, this was also from RC Sports Cards as well. He makes a good point that Clemson University is grooming in-house with Jeff Scott to take over the program if Morris leaves. They showed that in the spring game. Of course, Jeff Scott calling plays for one side of the team, and he's a kid who, and we've always said, what are you going to do if you're Dabo Swinney the day that Chad Morris leaves, or when Chad Morris isn't a part of this university anymore? If he chooses that route, maybe he chooses to always be there at Clemson, which would be great as well. But it's always been, and I've said this too, and I think we're starting to see some of that, is that you've got to have a guy in-house who starts to pick up on those nuances, on the aggressive nature of this offense, on the play calling. And as much as I've watched them call plays and really tried to figure it out, tried to see if I could put my finger on exactly what's going on, I can't. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it is bizarre. I'm not sure if having Governor Haley's face up means it's going to be a run to the right or a pass to the left. I just can't figure it out. But anyway, it's intriguing to watch, and it's quick. It's fast-paced, and obviously he's trying to get things faster. Thank you so much. I wish we could get things a little bit slower as the program flew by. We'll see y'all Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for TigerNet Talk, and hopefully our guest will be DeAndre McDaniel. We just spoke to him today, and we're looking to solidify things over the next couple of days. So if you want to leave us a message or something, you have something to say to DeAndre McDaniel, feel free to email us throughout the week. Thank you so much for being here, Tiger fans, and until next time, I'm Lawton Swan signing off. Y'all take care now, and go Tigers!